Greetings and salutations, everyone. Hello. How are you all doing? It is I, Trooper SJP, and this is the Academic Foxhole. Oh, gosh. And we've got audio happening all over the place, which I've got to turn off. Oh, my gosh. I said, now let's play a game. I bet you I can make a rhyme out of anybody's name. The first letter of the name, I treat it like it wasn't there. And then a B or an F or an M will appear. And then I say bo at a B, then I say the name, then banana, fanner, and foe. And then I say the name again with an F, very plain, then a fee, fi, and a mo. And then I say the name again with an M this time, and there isn't any name that I can rhyme. Control freak, control freak, control freak, bo bun troll freak, banana fanner full fun troll freak, fee fi moment troll freak, control freak. My house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Anna Geeks, thank you so much for the host. Welcome in. Come on to my house, come on. I'm going to give you a candy. And I have gummy bears. I don't know if I can smoosh the gummy bears across the internet, but like in my mind, I've smooshed them across the internet. Also, hi Evie, Ice Bunny, Bee Boodle, Miss Sue. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Thank you for the host. Ooh. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Barantor, thank you for the host. All the hosts. Anna Geeks is gonna pass on the gummy bears. That's fine. You've got orange oat cookies. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds really good. Orange oat cookies. I want those. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Thank you for the host, Jer. Hey, everyone. Ooh, sweet and salty kettle corn. I want that. Hey, Neo, how are you? Oh, hey, everybody. Be right. Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey jelly babies. Oh, my goodness. Be right. For those bits, it is now time for me to sing We're in the Money in Pig Latin, as sung by Ginger Rogers in Gold Diggers of 1933. Earway and hey, the anime. Earway and hey, the anime. Eve way at gale at way of way up way at way x te ute at gale young way oh. Earway and hey, the anime. E they I skays are ani say. Old may Andy ADS and pray ooh ya ooh thray you of just angreo. E way ever ne eat red lay lay of wed brains lay oot day. And way see the end lay or play at the I get ray in the IA. We're in the money. We're in the money. We've got a lot of what it takes to get along. Thank you so much for those bits. Ooh, well, I don't know why you don't have me on auto host, Jer. I don't know why. It's the earwig anime song. Bee Boodle, also Control Freak. It's doing good. It's been thunderstorming here, and it's perfect for listening to music and reading a good book, which is convenient because we're going to be reading a good book or a good book today. Yeah, this is the California Bluegrass Association. It's the California Bluegrass Association. They have a big, on Father's Day every year, they have a big, huge bluegrass festival. And I got to go this one year with my banjo teacher, and I got to go and hang out with the Osborne brothers, because Sonny Osborne is like this amazing banjo player. And I was like, oh my God, it's Sonny Osborne. Oh, it was so good. I got to see a third time out. I mean, it was like a really great festival with some really amazing bluegrass people from all over. It was so good because I love bluegrass. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you that I love bluegrass. I wanted to tell you all these things, though. I have so many things to tell you all. Oh, right. The Earwig anime song. Right. So did any of you see that Outer Limits? I think it was an Outer Limits and not a Twilight Zone, where the guy goes on safari or whatever, and he gets an earwig in his ear, and the only thing you can do if you get an earwig in your ear is to tie the guy down and wait until the earwig burrows all the way through his brain, and if you're lucky, it comes out the other and you don't die. And so the entire episode, right, is him being tortured by this earwig. It is going through his brain, burrowing in his brain. It's like the actor's doing all of the torture feelings. And the end of the episode is that the medical people sort of check it out, and they're like, the earwig has come out the other side and you're alive, it's also great, but we have one bad news, is that it was a female earwig, and it was pregnant, and the earwig laid earwig eggs inside your brain. And then of course he goes mad. So whenever I think of earwigs, I think about that one episode of The Outer Limits. Is that bad? I feel like it's not bad. I feel like that's okay. I think. Today we're going to read Atlanta Nights. I would show you the cover, but I have the actual book is in a box somewhere over there, but I have the electronic version with me right here that I can read. And we're going to read Atlanta Nights today, and I have a command and everything for it. It's wait. Command Atlanta Nights. I hope this is excellent. That Outer Limits episode sounds like an anime, perhaps an earwig anime. But before I start Atlanta Nights, was that the only? Outer Limits is not really horror. It's more like uncanny and strange. Rock and roll. So I wanted to do hey Falcon, I wanted to do a show and tell. You know what? This is our first Wednesday stream, which I'm doing for the summer, and I'm going to be reading to you and then chatting about RPGs. And you know how I've got a secret Patreon, which I've not officially announced, but last Sunday I went and I GM'd Cthulhu Confidential, because I'm doing that offline so that I can get ready to actually stream it on the channel, which is part of there's no Patreon command because it's secret. The only earwigs that burrow into your brains are the eels of Seta Alfie 4, though. I mean, that's fair. But also, what about the boar worms from Flash Gordon? From Flash Gordon, right? The boar worms. Remember when they capture Cornelia Mutu, who's the daughter, and and she says, oh, my father Ming is going to get you, and then Clytus is the bad guy, and he's like, bring out the boar worms, and she's like, no, not the boar worms. Do you remember Flash Gordon dive? I feel like people. Krellin. So here's what have I been doing with all the goodness. This is what I've been doing. Guess what I got? And it's going to help because, I'm getting ready for the Cthulhu Confidential stream, which I'm going to run on my channel. I'm hoping to run it maybe in July. I've got to go and talk to people, but guess what I got? I got a Stream Deck. And it has buttons. I got the regular size, not the massive jumbo size, because whatever. But I've got a Stream Deck, so I can like boop boop, beep boop. I can press buttons to make the transitions from all the things much easier, right? How cool is that? So this is like, you're helping me with that. I also have a show and tell because for some reason, I've been kickstarting. Anna Geeks wants the XL. Flash Gordon was just only like last year ago, right? That's all. It was just like last year. It's not. I'm not old. Oh, a banjo moment button. I want a banjo button, and I know exactly what would happen. It would be the famous G lick that goes. Like, I have it. So anyway, I've been kickstarting RPGs for years, and many of them just haven't come out. And for some weird reason, I'm getting all of the Kickstarter games right now. Flash, I love you, but we only have 24 hours to save the Earth. Thank you, B-Boodle. Go, Flash, go. And then when Dale cartwheels through the hallway with laser blasts, it was just so good. So I also got Strata, which is a source book for Spire, which is a really cool sort of urban fantasy RPG, which I'm very excited about. So, right, Flash, savior of the universe. And of course, Flash Gordon had Timothy Dalton, one of my favorite James Bondses, as Prince Baron. So it was just all good all the time. Yeah, right. All of a sudden, all the Kickstarters are coming in, and Strata has beautiful art. Well, that's fair control fic. It could be a source book for Terry Pratchett, but it is not, sadly. But I mean, look at this. Right, look at this art. Whoop. Predatory moss is lured onto statues of its prey, where it is farmed. Right, look at that. Oh, Brian Blessed was so good. I mean, everybody was good in that. It was so good. Also, Ice Bunny, you can't be old, because if you're old, and then I'm old, and then also Barentors, like, then there would be a bunch of people in here who are old, and I just refuse that. That's not even the case. It's not even real. Yeah, the art style is gorgeous. And, where is it? Spire. Again, I'm going to... Don't even worry about it. I'm going to, there it is. I'm going to alphabetize everything once I move things shelves upward. So this is the game itself, Spire. And it's basically, you know what it is? Do you want to know what it is? I don't refute it, but I do refuse it. Thank you. Yeah, the Darkest Dungeon. It does have that Darkest Dungeon look, right? And we're do I have the? I don't even have the oldest audience for Twitch. No, maybe. This is basically like a French Resistance game if everybody were a dark elf in a fantasy city, right? So I will read it to you. You are a dark elf. You have sworn in blood and sacred shadow to destroy your oppressors, the Elfir, high elves from the frozen north who have claimed your homeland as their own. Spire is a mile-high metropolis, and you hide in its crumbling temples, its lawless undercity, and its labyrinthine tunnels, the rotting hole in reality that festers at its center. Your masters while away their days in opulent cruelty and glittering sunlight far above. Spire is all the world you have ever known, and it must fall. How far are you willing to go for the revolution, and what sacrifices will you make to see the drow in control of Spire once more? Spire, the city must fall. Spire is a fantasy punk role-playing game of intrigue, subterfuge, and sedition. You and your friends will become a cell of desperate drow freedom fighters and claw back control of the city from your Elfir overlords, no matter what it takes. It uses a simple rule system that helps you tell stories of brutal rebellion where life is cheap, alliances are temporary, and magic is strange and perilous. Right? Yeah, so it's a fantasy punk, and I just was like, I saw that and I was like, oh, you know how I am. I love games of resistance. And, where did I put this? What's over here? Well, I'm going to just put it here. That's what I'm going to do. So, that was the big excitement. And I don't know if you went, Saturday was free RPG day. And I went and I got some free RPGs from the local gaming store. I got the Mythic D6 Quick Start, which we'll see how that is. They've got a Kids on Bike, Strange Adventures, The House on Poplar Court. That's exciting. Outbreak Undead, the Intro Manual, 2nd edition. That seems interesting. Land of Myth, Age of Palaces, which is... Barentor, of course I'll show you the back of the shirt. And this is a fantasy setting in mythical ancient Greece for, you know, B, right, I feel like it's that kind of we're going to destroy it we'll destroy it. And then modern age quick start. So I got some good. The land of myth. It's ancient Greece, and that seems very exciting because, as we know, Greek gods are the best. I feel like if you live in a land with Greek gods who are very, very active in your life, I think it gives you a lot of excuses. Do you know what I mean? So you're like, hey, I didn't, I said I would meet you at that place and I just didn't show up. It's because, the gods, they distracted me. The gods are like, okay, you're like, oh, you don't talk to a friend for 4 days. They ask you, where have you been? You say, oh, the gods put me asleep. I was kidnapped by the gods. I feel like you get away with all sorts of stuff in the ancient Greek pantheon, right? Barantor wanted to see the back of my shirt. I will show you. Wait, I can't just turn around because then you won't see it. I've got to do this. It's can you see it? Oh no. Boop, boop. So this was 1999, the Father's Day weekend Bluegrass Festival. It's nice. Yeah. So before we talk about RPGs, we are going to begin. Hello, the gluttonous geek. Dang it, need to put on my ugly sweater today. Zeus is on the prowl again. Oh, gluttonous geek, I don't even know if that's going to help you. Zeus gets excited by everything, including see, this is what's going to happen, gluttonous geek. Hello. What's going to happen is you're going to think that you're going to be able to escape Zeus by putting on your ugly sweater, but it turns out Zeus transformed himself into the ugly sweater, and then boom, you're having sex with Zeus. That's how it is. Zeus does not really pay attention to consent very much. That's a thing about him. It's like, he's like, I'm a sweater. Yeah, Zeus, can I have sex with that? It's a tree. I don't care. Can I have sex with that? It's Zeus. It's a rock. I don't care. Zeus, he needed therapy. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, he needed therapy. Yeah, if you're particularly curvy cow, Zeus is definitely going to have sex with you. That is true. Oh, Zeus. So, my friends, we're going to begin. We're going to do a couple of chapters of Atlanta Nights before we then just go and chat about all of the things. Atlanta Nights is having sex with everyone but a Hera. Oh, Atomica, that is so rough. And it's true. Oh, it's so true. So sad. Every single deity in the Greek mythos needs severe help. Like, a lot of therapy, Well, that's true. Zeus doesn't. As far as we know, he doesn't bang penis havers, I think. Not that I remember. But it's so weird because sometimes it's a shower of gold. Like, Zeus, what are you up to? What are you up to, Zeus? So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to read Atlanta Nights. And, except when Loki disguises the mayor and then Zeus would totally hit it, and that is also true. So I want to tell you, Atlanta Nights is this book. It's a hoax book written by a variety of sci-fi and fantasy authors. What happened was there was a sort of a sketchy publishing house, and they put out a call for high quality novels, and they wanted only the highest quality. And so they said no sci-fi and fantasy novels because they only want high quality. And these sci-fi fantasy authors thought this was sketchy. They didn't like it. And they decided to put together a hoax novel, making the worst novel they could think of that was not sci-fi fantasy, submitting it to this publishing house. And the publishing house, which indeed was pretty scammy, accepted this novel that was written on purpose to be horrible. And then after they accepted it, these authors sort of exposed them and exposed this publishing house as terrible. And then the book now is available for you to get for like $6 on lulu.com. And here's the cool thing. The writers of the book gave me permission to read it on stream. So we're reading a book and it's all official like. And I feel like we can do just a couple of chapters today. So are you ready? We will begin. Atlanta Nights by Travis T. Chapter 1. Pain. Whispering voices. Pain. 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 New pain. What are they sticking in me? Sleep. Pain. Whispering voices. As you know, Nurse Eastman, the government spooks controlling this hospital will not permit me to give this patient the care I think he needs. Yes, doctor. The voice was breathy, sweet, so sweet and sexy. We will therefore just monitor his signs. Serious trauma like this patient suffered requires extra care, but the rich patsies controlling the hospital will make certain I cannot try any of my new treatments on him. Yes, doctor. That voice was so sexy. Bruce didn't care about the treatments. He cared about pain, and he cared about that voice, because when he heard that voice, the pain went away, just for a few seconds, like. Report to me if there's any change, the man's voice said. Yes, Dr. Nance, said the sexy voice. A door closed, and Bruce heard breathing, and smelled the enticing smell of shampoo and perfume. It was Chanel No. 5. He opened his eyes. All he saw was the roundest, firmest pair of tittles he'd ever seen in his entire life, all enclosed in a crisp white nurse's uniform. I'm in heaven, he said. No, he tried to say, but his voice wouldn't work. His mouth was dry, and there was some terrible tube thing in his nose. And hey, what's that in his dick? It hurts. The tits bounced like Aunt Alice's molded jello back home, and then moved away. Oh, she was just straightening the covers on the bed. Bed? Bruce realized he laid in a bed, his left arm being strapped down with something sticking and up a tube on the top of his hand. Bruce looked up. The tits belonged to a beautiful face carved out of ice and whipped cream, with a pair of glowing emerald eyes. Around that perfect face was brown hair, like one of those supermodels, all puffed up. Oh, you're awake, Mr. Lucent, said the sexy nurse. Bruce worked his lips, but couldn't speak. Well, Mr. Lucent, the sexy voice went on, you are probably wondering what you're doing here, honey child. He realized the voice had the accent of a sexy southern peach. You were in an auto accident, Mr. Lucent, but don't worry. You'll be just fine. This here is the finest hospital in Atlanta, and you're in the care of the finest doctor, Dr. Arthur Eastman. Bruce tried to speak, but just moaned. Now, is there anything I can get you? Nurse Eastman asked, moving around to the other side of the bed and fluffing the pillow. Bruce, what he wanted, but he couldn't do much else, he realized. Everything hurt, right down to that thing, whatever it was, in his dick. He said. Nurse Eastman's eyes lit up like a Christmas tree lights. Now you're talking. Oh, she gave a girlish giggle. You're recovering just fine. I have to go tell Dr. Eastman right away. Wait, he grated. She paused, giggling again. A frightened giggle now, a childish giggle, as though a little girl on Halloween going door to door, instead of seeing a paper mache, witch, or a goblin, suddenly was grabbed by the real thing. I don't remember, Bruce croaked. I don't remember. No, she said, shaking her head vehemently. You don't remember a thing. Now you just rest. She went to the door, her hips swaying like palm trees in a Hawaiian hurricane. Bruce lied there in bed, trying to recover his memory. All that he could remember was the screeching of tires, like a steam engine gone crazy, and then there was just all that pain. Hell. Hell on wheels. That's what it was. Yes, hell. On wheels. While outside the door, Nurse Eastman leaned against the wall, her chest rising and falling with passion as she tried to control her gasps. Oh no, she thought. How could it be? Out of all the hospitals in Georgia, they would bring him here. She raised shaking fingers and outlined the shape of her lips, moaning softly as she remembered the one day she'd met Bruce Lucent. The single day at the high school prom. She'd gone with her cousin to please their parents. Since his date got sick and he had rented his tux and everything, even though she was in nursing college. Enchantment Under the Sea, it was called. She could remember it as if it was yesterday. Their eye met across the room, locked, held, molding passionately. It was a gaze of molten heat, a supernova of total lust, even though he was only 17 and she was 23. It was only a matter of time before she ditched her cousin and Bruce ditched his date, and they found themselves in the back of Bruce's Chevy. She moaned, writhing in memory, until a voice splintered, shattered, pierced her memory. Nurse Eastman? It was the head nurse. Her warty nose quivered, her eyes blazed with suspicion. The old bag. She wouldn't know what love truly was? I'm sorry, Margaret Eastman smiled. I just had a cramp. If you are sick, you may be excused from your shift, the head nurse opined. I will be fine, but I promised Dr. Nance I would let him know when his patient woke up. Margaret gritted and ran away from the head nurse before the head nurse could stop her, her high heels clattering on the floor like the death knells of doom. They only have one eye. Levi, only one eye. They only share the one eye. Dr. Arthur Nance looked up when the nurse entered the room. Arthur had always been the brightest star at school, from a very early age. He was always elected class president in grammar school, middle school, and high school. He was class valedictorian at his graduation. And when a lot of his friends went to mechanic school or junior college to mess around with business, he went straight to the university medical school. But there, misspelled, Arthur ran into something far worse than tough teachers and tough grades. Prejudice. Yes, prejudice. Not race, but class. All the snobs from the wealthy families laughed at him for his accent, and when he tried to join the most popular fraternities on campus, they hazed him without letting him know until too late that he would never join. Arthur got his medical degree, but he became embittered against rich people, against politicians, and anyone in authority. Wherever he went, he was sure there was some conspiracy against him by those in authority. He was sure of it when he didn't get hired to any private hospitals or to a lucrative practice among the rich, doing fat removal and facelifts for 25 grand apiece. No, he could only get a job in this hellhole, where every night the ambulances brought in drunks and suicides and crazy homeless and the battered wrecks the EMTs scraped off the freeways. Like this Lucent jerk. Arthur was sitting there brooding about all these ills when Nurse Eastman came into the doctor room. Is my patient awake? He asked. Well, yes, she said, and then she wiped her eyes and throatily whispered, Doctor, I have a request that you excuse me from attending this patient. Request denied, Dr. Nance said curtly. I will not have one of those braided spies who work for the hospital trustees killing my patient. I'll go seize he now. He stormed and stormed out of the room. Margaret leaned against the wall and wept a sorrowing flood-like of tears. She knew Bruce would emerge from the fog of the painkillers and he would recognize her. What if he told someone about that night at the prom? My sexy voice brought him from the dead and therefore I'm a threat to your promotion. Yes, gluttonous. All her life, Margaret had worked hard, harder than anyone else. Her sisters, all of them far more beautiful than she, had coasted through life like a toboggan down the snow hill of life. But Margaret had a vision at an early age and knew she was meant to be a nurse. Her mother had scorned her, her father had laughed at her. So she put herself through nursing school by waiting tables at a low dive at night. 5 long years she toiled, with never a day off, not even at Christmas, just so she could walk out with her head held high, and her degree in hand. Once, just once, she had strayed from the path of hard work. Just once, she let herself relax, do her cousin Ted a favor, go as his date to the prom. Well, she'd learned her lesson, she thought. She never thought she'd see Bruce Lucent again, but now here, the cruelty of fates laughed at her, just like her family. Bruce Lucent was here, helpless, in her hospital, and it was only a matter of time before he remembered who she was. And what would he do then? She wept even harder. That was the end of chapter 1. Oh my goodness. Since the end of chapter 1, I've got to find out what people are saying in chat now. Like a toboggan down the snow hill full of life, you know? Her head held high. Yeah, my hips sway like palm trees in a Hawaiian hurricane. It is true. Control Freak says, if the nurses at uni where I went were anything to go by, it was because they didn't have time between teaching, not killing the patients, and how to down a quad vodka without noticing. Oh my goodness. All right. We're gonna do chapter 2. I think we can probably do 3 chapters, and then we'll go and do, wait. He has to die before the voice does anything. Right? I think we can do 3. No. Barantor, I am drinking a cream soda. I got the Steward's cream soda, and I think it's made from cane sugar, and I feel like I don't know where it's made. Wait. It is made in Texas, I think. Oh, held head high. I might need alcohol to get through this. And I just had the Stewart's orange cream soda. It was really good. Gluttonous Geek is drinking mezcal with sake and lime juice. Ooh, well, that sounds good. Chapter 2. The Atlanta sun slanted low in the west. Rain showers predicted for later that afternoon, then clearing. Bruce Lucent looked from the side window of his friend's shiny Maserati sports car as they wheeled their way westward against the afternoon traffic. "I'm glad you could give me a ride," Bruce Lucent muttered, his pain-worn face reddened by the yellow sunlight. "What with my new car all smashed and all." His old friend Isidore shook his massive head at him. "We know how it must be to have a lot of money, but no working car," he said, the harsh Macon County drawl of his voice softened by his years in Atlanta high society. "It's my pleasure to bring you back to your fancy apartment, and we're all so happy that y'all is still alive. Y'all could have been killed in that dreadful wreck." Isidore paused to put on the turn signal before making a safe turn across rush hour traffic into the parking lot of Bruce Lucent's luxury apartment building. "Y'all all gets a new car on Monday." "I don't know how I'll be able to drive it with my arm in a cast," Bruce Lucent shoots back. "It's lucky I wasn't killed outright like so many people are when they have horrid automobile wrecks." See, Levi, you can relax. It's fine. Bruce Lucent is the name of my Baywatch fanfiction character, as well it should be. Fortunately, fast and efficient emergency medical services based on a program founded by Lyndon Baines Johnson, the 36th President of the United States, helped y'all survive an otherwise deadly crash, Isidore chuckled. He nodded his head towards the towering apartment building in the very shadow of Peachtree Avenue, where Bruce lived his luxurious life. So young, yet so wealthy, based on his skills as an expert software developer. "I don't feel very fortunate," Bruce complained, as his friend helped him from the low-slung red car. "I hurt all over it. I don't remember a thing after I left the bar over on Martin Avenue. I wouldn't be surprised if the police didn't want to talk to me about what happened. Not that I could help them, because I don't remember anything," he added as an afterthought. Krillin says, "This chapter logically follows the first, and I feel cheated." Let the book breathe for you. Just wait, Krillin. We don't even know where it's going to go from here. Isidore pulled the collapsible wheelchair that he bought at St. Irene's Hospital from the open trunk of his new Maserati and unfolded it on the curb beside where Bruce painfully stood, his recent ordeal only recently over. He helped his chum sit in the new wheelchair and then pushed it rapidly towards the gleaming doors of the high-rise tower. The soft southern breeze blew the sweet scent of magnolias over them as he said, "This is certainly something new for me." "Never say that," he replied. Isidore shook his head, his red ponytail flipping in the soft breeze as he wheeled his best friend into the lobby, past the uniformed security guard named Amos, who saluted them, and then into the elevator to the 14th floor of the luxury high-rise apartment building recently built in downtown Atlanta. The longtime security guard, I know, right? You've got to have the sweet tea in there too. The longtime security guard saluted the pair as they passed. What lucky people, he thought. So young and rich. They could afford to live here. Not like me. I have to live across town and wear a uniform and salute the young rich kids who make more money in a minute than I can make my whole life. We do. We just need some fried chicken and some barbecue, some sweet tea. Mint juleps, I think we might need. And a white linen suit. Bruce thought that the dark elevator walls were closing in on him. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you everything. Thank you for the host, Crit Witch. We're reading Atlanta Nights. White is the bougiest of colors. Bruce thought the dark elevator walls were closing in on him, and despite the chill in the air-conditioned air, he could still smell the flower smells from outside. The upward elevator started slowly into motion, as if it was reluctance to climb the hundreds of feet. "Hurry up!" Bruce cried aloud. Bruce pounded on the arm of his recently acquired wheelchair as his friend asked, "Bruce, what's the matter? Is y'all so impatient to get home that the elevator is too slow for you? Imagine if y'all had to take the emergency stairs in your condition," he chuckled. Yeah, all y'all is what we all say around here. I just feel like you don't say y'all for a singular person, but whatever. Bruce glared at his friend, who stood behind him and the wheelchair as the elevator hissed to a halt on the 14th floor, the dark paneled doors sliding open with the sound of well-oiled machinery. And then he was pushed by his friend out into the hall and then down to the door labeled 1414, his apartment door. Bruce searched his pockets for the key that he knew he did not have. "Damn it," he said, and then, "They kept everything, even my wallet at the hospital. How am I going to get it?" Isidore knocked on the door, and then at once it swung open. I'm pretty sure the singular y'all exists in certain parts of the country. I'm sure that's true. All y'all's like yous guys. All y'all. B. Boodle says, "This is making me feel better about my angst-ridden teenage poetry." Oh, I've got another book for you then, B. Boodle. I've got another book for you if I can find it, which I think you would appreciate. It's about angsty teenage. Yeah. It's gluttonous. It's gonna, like, don't you want to know who opens the door? I think you want to know. Are you ready? Isidore knocked at the door, and then it at once swung open. A stunning vision inside, an echo of pulchritude in a bright red dress, seemed to take their breath away. It was Penelope Urbain, Bruce Lucent's longtime and very beautiful girlfriends. Penelope, who had walked in the door of Lucent Software asking for a job, and a good thing is being that she did, because he had won for her a position, so to speak, that only a beautiful woman could fulfill. And she filled the role perfectly as the beautiful girlfriend for those social occasions when he needed to appear on the front page of the newspaper with a beautiful woman on his arm. That was all one sentence. Pulchritude. Everyone looked and thought he was lucky, but it wasn't just luck. It was planning that he fell in love with this beautiful woman and her with him. He gave her his glance and she gave him hers. Bruce looked at her and whistled, thanking whatever god was listening that the auto accident that he had apparently been in had spared his family jewels, for he wasn't one to put to pasture his rampant desire for his stunning young woman, at least not yet. He snapped his fingers and snarled, "Take me inside, Isidore, or you're fired from my software company." She's a robot. Something like anger stirred in Isidore's breast, yet Isidore laughed at Bruce's favorite joke as he pushed the millionaire software developer indoctrinated by new Algers into the stunning studio apartment that he rented in this exclusive high-rise tower. The walls were white as was the carpet. The walls met the ceiling at right angles, where glistening mirrors in gold frames studded the walls. Penelope Urbain had been a poor girl, she knew, though she pretended to have grown up rich and happy in the suburbs of Atlanta. It was all a lie. Now, she looked into one of the many mirrors that studded the walls of her boyfriend Bruce's apartment and liked what she saw. Two hazel eyes with perky eyebrows, red like the red of her head and other places, met her smoky gaze in the mirror. She smoothed the hair back from her elfin ears, making it tumble down her back, past her shoulders, broad, but not too broad enough to support the luxurious breast that filled the front of her scarlet sundress, glowing in the afternoon sun, the hot Georgia orb of fire that came through the window as she admired her trim shape and flat tummy in the mirror. She looked, she thought, like the bad girl heroine of a tawdry romance novel. The expensive shoes she wore, high heels that matched her tight dress and set off her red hair, were delicately shaped by the stiletto heels and sharp toes. The lift they gave curving her creamy calves and making her rounded bottom move like a semaphore of love as she walked past the framed mirror that she had been looking in. Her hazel eyes sparkled as she took in the sight of her newly returned boyfriend in the wheeled chair that marked him as some disabled person. Would you like a drinky? Penelope offered her recently returned beau as his friend pushed him in front of the widescreen TV that dominated the west wall without making it seem overpowering. Damn it, yes, Bruce Lucent repeated, looking at the vision of feminine lust on 2 feet. I've been in the lousy hospital, and they don't let you have a little drink there, he opined. Then I want to get to my new computer so I can check on my hot stock options and write more on my best-selling software development. I've wasted too much time locked in that smelly hospital. It's full of sick people. Penelope and Isidore looked at each other, as only 2 redheads can look at one another, as Bruce delivered himself of this comment. Then, let me fix you something nice with expensive vodka and gin, Penelope giggled as she went to the kitchen to make ice cubes. When she was young, she'd been called Penny, but now she was worth a lot more, she mused, and she busied herself at the full bar that filled the west wall beside the large television set that Bruce had bought with the first proceeds of his award-winning mutual software. He often went on the modern internet to make his money. And when Isidore's gone, I can greet you properly, Penelope whispered as she handed the old-fashioned to Bruce in his chrome wheelchair. She looked significantly at Bruce's tanned, lean frame as she handed him the crystal glass. Wait. Yes, Krellin, he did opine on them not letting him drink at the hospital. That is true. I mean, but her hips sway like a semaphore of love, I think, you know. Yeah, Bruce responded. What's he still doing here? He turned to his old friend and pointed out, Why don't you go park the car? My old car has crashed, you know. Yes, Bruce, Isidore smirked as he turned, knowing what kind of scene of wild debauchery was about to be enacted in this very room, because he had known it for himself firsthand during the long week Bruce Lucent had been in the hospital. I'll go park the car. You cannot opine while stating facts. This is true, actually. And I also prefer the antique internet. He went down the sleek elevator that had so shortly before ascended, wondering, I know the plot thickens, if Bruce was going to be the man he had been before losing consciousness in that horrible accident. He planned to take the Maserati out onto Peachtree Avenue in search of an empty parking place as upstairs a miracle of love was performed by Penelope and Bruce, young lovers at the very height of their beauty, wealth, power, desire. Yes, Bruce is an asshole, Krellin. We should just die in that accident. Going down, Isidore Trent chuckled as he pressed the down button, and laughing at his own joke. Had he but known what was to come, he would have been laughing out of the other side of his mouth. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, Bruce is the worst. He's awful. He's not at all. But it is a very exclusive, high-up apartment. My friends, what happens next? I'm going to give you one more chapter, chapter 3, and then we're going to talk RPGs. Gluttonous Geek says, I really need to finish setting up my kitchen. This was too fun. Thanks for the delightful read-through. My pleasure. We're going to have one more chapter, and we're going to see what happens. Cook something really good, Gluttonous. Something like delicious, like my mother's, you know, tuna casserole. So delicious. So, chapter 3, before we go to chatting RPGs. As you probably heard, Yvonne, began Penelope Urbain, seriously brushing a gleaming scarlet tress out of her tearful eye. Bruce has come home from the hospital after his accident. Well, yes, you must be very happy, said Yvonne sympathetically. He was badly hurt in that auto accident. Yes, he was badly hurt, responded Penelope honestly. But he is home now, and I'm very happy about that. We need to have a serious discussion about this, said Yvonne earnestly. Yes, we have some very serious things to discuss, agreed Penelope. Yvonne Perrin raised her glass and began to gulp down the martini she had ordered, and then she signaled the waiter to bring another one. Yvonne drank too much and did not eat right at all, and Penelope was starting to get worried about her friend's habits in eating and drinking. Her cheeks were almost as red as her hair already, like red delicious apples under green leaves, which were her eyes, and the dark pupils were like little curled-up caterpillars in the middle. Do you think it's a good idea to have another Yvonne? Interrogated Penelope. I think they're only truthful when it says. You're streaming from 7 to 9? All right, we will stop by. Thank you. Yes, one more will not hurt me and then I will quit, retorted Yvonne. They did not notice that Stephen Suffern was watching them secretly from his table across the dining room. They were at the Polo Club for lunch. The restaurant was a large room with a number of tables and some big windows looking out over the golf course and the lake. Both men and women and couples were eating lunch. Stephen Suffern was the best masseuse the club had ever had. After lunch, Yvonne might get a massage. She thought he was a stud. Watching him across the room with rippling muscles like a bull, and well hung too, she could see his pulsing manhood stuffed into the tight, silky blue gym shorts he always wore at work. She thought she should have made an appointment for a massage. Stephen Suffern thought Penelope was a real looker, far too good for that stuffy software developer Lucent, who needed to work out once in a while and lose 50 pounds. He flexed his muscles and thought about the book he had just read, The Joy of Sex. It always surprised people that this athletic man was such a great reader, and he liked that. I'm so glad that your wife is cringing, because I just want to bring cringy joy to all of the people. The prose is so purple. It's so purple. Hello, ladies, said Stephen Suffern, passing their table. Oh, hello, Stephen, purred Yvonne. She had a crush on the handsome masseuse at the Polo Club. Sometimes she saw him working out in the gym, and she was turned on by the sweat smell of his suite. I read what was written. She could not wait to think of a plan to try to get him into bed with her. Hello, Stephen, Penelope whispered softly. The prose is so purple, it's indigo. By the way, when I say things that sound like a mistake, I'm probably reading the exact words on the page. Well, sometimes it does change, Barentor, because the spelling is not consistent in this book at all. I just want you to know there are spelling inconsistencies. There and there, always misspelled. There's some excitement with punctuation that you cannot see, but it is excellent. Do you have to work today? Maybe we could get a massage later, said Yvonne boldly. I only have room in my appointment book for one lady this afternoon, explained Stephen. Oh, that is all right. You go, Yvonne, said Penelope kindly. She knew her friend had a crush on Stephen, who was a real stud. It's bad. So there's both bad writing and bad editing. I must get back to Bruce anyway. He needs me. Bruce would have liked to have given her a massage, but he was stuck with her friend. Yvonne was too old for him. He stood up and walked past their table and flexed a bicep for effect. See you later, Yvonne, he said meaningfully. Yvonne watched him go by, his muscles pulsing and rippling like waves under a thin blanket of tanned skin, like a freshly baked cinnamon cake. Penelope began to sip her mint julep, because it's the South. I think he likes you, Yvonne, said Penelope thoughtfully. I think, yeah, it was... No, she's got to go back to Bruce. Stephen is there. Why do you think that, Penelope? Asked Yvonne Urbain. He always comes over to talk to us when we are eating lunch at the Polo Club, explained Penelope. He's cute. I think so too. But I have Bruce already. I think you're the main attraction here for him, not I, hissed Yvonne jealously. Right, this like the freshly baked cinnamon cake. This is good. No, I'm not, soothed Penelope. Anyway, you can get a massage and have him to yourself. I will go home and take care of Bruce. The waiter walked over to their table and brought another martini for Yvonne, with a shot glass of extra vodka on the side. I want a man like a cinnamon cake. I mean, it's so good. I did not order extra vodka, said Yvonne impatiently. She was mad from the conversation with her friend Penelope, who all men seemed to be attracted to. Her cheeks were flaming red fires, like a volcano, ready to explode through the cold emerald stones that were her eyes. She knew Penelope thought she drank too much. The waiter said, I'm sorry, miss, but we are out of cocktail onions, and the chef sent this instead, with his compliments. Yvonne Perrin stood up and walked over to the waiter and took the shot glass full of vodka and poured it out in a planter that held a spindly rubber tree that never got enough light to grow properly, even though it was near one of the windows that looked out onto the lake where some ducks were floating, like they were waiting for someone to throw them some bread, but there was nobody there at this time of day. I think everyone is a redhead. Hey, DSB221. Right now we have Yvonne Perrin and Penelope Urbain. Penelope Urbain is dating Bruce Lucent, who's a rich software developer who got into a car crash. And Bruce Lucent is a jerk and has a best friend named Isidore, who's a there are a lot of redheads. And Yvonne Perrin is older and maybe also a lush. That is a plant description. Calm down. Yvonne, people are staring at you, said Penelope worriedly. Do you feel okay? She asked questioningly. You never understand how I feel, moaned Yvonne. I'm just as good looking as you, but I'm older, and that's not fair. The men all go for you, and you have Bruce already. I'm afraid I will never find a man now that I'm getting old. Yvonne sipped her martini, which tasted like liquid ice on her tongue. It helped her feel calmer. She asked the waiter, What brand of vodka is in this drink? It is a French vodka imported specially for the Polo Club, thinking that ought to impress her, and picking up the empty glasses from their table. Do you want to order something to eat now? Yes, I will have a steak, said Penelope decisively, and I want it cooked rarely. I'm a gourmet when it comes to beef, so tell the cook not to overcook it. Yes, ma'am, the waiter said smoothly. Anything else? French fries, and please bring the horseradish sauce. It's Grey Goose. French bourbon? I've never had any French bourbon. Poor hungry ducks. A Caesar salad for me with blue cheese dressing, Yvonne decided. I'm watching my weight. Leave room for the dessert. It is our chef's special tonight, suggested the waiter. Yvonne could see the people at the next table eating chocolate cake. Everybody else had finished their lunch and gone now from the empty room. Yes, pleased, she said eagerly. She had gotten over her fit about the extra vodka. The waiter walked away. Now back to talking about Bruce, said Penelope Urbain, brushing a strand of red hair out of her eyes. I hope he will recover soon from his accident. Do not worry about that, exclaimed Yvonne. He is getting the finest medical care money can buy. And if the accident leaves a scar, he can go to a plastic surgeon and has it removed. I know a very good plastic surgeon in Atlanta. He did my nose for me last year, she argued. Also, Krellin, I'm watching my weight, watching it what increase? Penelope snapped waspishly. I appreciate your adjectives. Those are adverbs, pardon me. Penelope wiped a teardrop from the corner of her lovely almond-shaped eyes. I do not know what I would do without Bruce if something happened to him. You say Stephen Suffern likes me, but I do not think I could go for a masseuse if something happened and Bruce dies. Yvonne Perrin got angry. You are a snob, Penelope Urbain, she shouted angrily. The crowd of people eating in the restaurant at the Polo Club put down their knives and forks and stared at them. I am not, retorted Penelope in reply. Something's going to happen. I hope something happens to Bruce, because he's the worst. And there does need to be a play of this Barator. That would be so good. You do not deserve the love of a man like Bruce Lucent. He is the absolute most eligible bachelors in Atlanta. And another one is Steve Suffern, Yvonne pointed out heatedly. DSP, that there may not actually be foreshadowing in this book. That is fair. We have been friends for a long time, Penelope said wistfully. I do not want to fight over men. You are right, sighed Yvonne. Let us not talk about this again. Waving her hand to attract the waiter, I will pay for lunch today. The waiter stated, Yes, missus, what would you like? I would like the bill, said Yvonne firmly. That will be $134 plus tax, responded the waiter. Put it on my tab. I'm a member of the polo club, said Yvonne grandly. Penelope knew she could not afford a bill like that, but she had her pride. She could not show her up before all of the best society in Atlanta. She would never forgive her if she did. I would be glad to pay half, she offered gently, but her friend waved the money away and stood up and began to walk to the door. I will make up for it when I get that massage from Stephen Suffern, she explained. Stephen is a real stud, and I'm looking forward to it, she added eagerly. Yvonne could not do anything more. She decided to go home and seize Bruce, that should be Penelope, but she was glad they had such a good discussion and cleared up things between them. Look, we just have to do one more chapter because there are 41 chapters total, and I feel like we're going to get about 10 sessions before school starts, so we'll just do one more chapter, and that's it. One more chapter. And then RPGs. We have a new person for chapter 4. Andrew Venice parked his car on the street in front of the house and double-checked the address he had written down on a slip of paper. Yeah, this was the place all right. It was an ordinary house on an ordinary street. There was nothing special about it, just plain. Nothing here looked like it might be connected to murder or assault or anything like that. Richard Isaacs, the man he'd come to interview, were a stock manipulator, and you'd think he'd live in a fancier place, a nicer house, on a better street. B-Boodle, our last one, and then we're done. Only one more. We've got a stock manipulator. And of course, Krellin, more characters. But since he was also a police informant, maybe he wanted to keep a low profile, not do anything to stand out. Not exactly like the witness protection program, but not all that different. Or maybe he just wasn't that good at manipulating stocks. Venice would try to find out, in addition to finding out what he really came here to ask about. Hey, Pumpkin. Pumpkin. He put the note on the front seat. And don't worry, Pumpkin, because you're hearing about new people who we've all just heard about for the first time as well. Javai, it's actually a group of 20-something authors. Each one wrote a different chapter and put them together in a strange way, which I'm excited about. He put the note on the front seat and his sunglasses in the glove compartment, checking his reflection in the rearview mirror and smoothing back his hair. Turning 40 was hard. He didn't know what he'd been planning to do at 40, but he was damn sure this wasn't it. Oh well. It was his job, and he was the one to do it. He better get going, ask his questions, make his report. Then he'd have time to stop by the gym later, work out a bit, fight off the ravages of time. He was still in his prime, even if he had to work harder to maintain it. A quote. Teresa Nielsen Hayden's review said, "The world is full of bad books written by amateurs, but why settle for the merely regrettable? Atlanta Nights is a bad book written by experts." Hey, Rissa, how are you? He should have edited this. It's true. What have you missed, Rissa? So far, Bruce Lucent was, who is a software developer and very, very rich, was in a terrible car accident. His nurse was Nurse Eastman, who he had sex with at prom, but he didn't recognize her, and she was upset about it. He goes back to his apartment where he's picked up by his best friend, who he's really mean to, Isidore, but then also he gets to see his girlfriend, Penelope Urbain. And then Penelope Urbain is having lunch at the polo club with Yvonne Perrin, who drinks too much, and they talk about the stud, who is the masseuse. And now we are in Chapter 4, Or we have a person we've ever heard of before, Andrew Venice, who seems to be a police officer who's outside of the apartment, the house of Richard Isaacs, who's a stock manipulator, but also a police informant. This is where we're at. This is Andrew Venice. Getting out of the car, he looked both ways, then shut the door and used the key fob to lock all of the doors. It wasn't a bad neighborhood or anything like that, but he still didn't want to take any chances. He let a minivan go past, then an SUV. Then he walked around the front of his car and up the long sidewalk to the porch. A bench sat on the porch, the kind you might sit on and drink some lemonade, but it didn't look used, and nobody had had any lemonade to drink there for a while. Or maybe they just didn't like the porch or something. Luckily we're early on so that I can give you a recap as it goes on. It might be harder to make a recap that makes any sense. That's all. Isaacs probably had to keep a low profile anyway. He wasn't the kind of guy who spent a lot of time outside making friends with the neighbors. Venice went to knock on the door and stopped. There was a flyer lying on the welcome mat. No, it was one of those bags of advertisements they paid neighborhood kids to deliver. One of those circulars. There was a cardboard box full of them just off to the side of the door. He picked up the new one and held it in his hand as he knocked on the door with his knuckles. Loud enough so anyone inside could hear him, but not pounding or anything like that. Watching his reflection in the storm door, smoothing the lapels on his suit jacket so he'd be sure to look nice. The door opened. Levi, does anybody know what's going on? At the moment, what's happening, Andrew Venice, who may be a police officer, is going to meet with Richard Isaacs, who's a police informant and a stock manipulator. Richard Isaacs were the man who answered the door. He looked over Venice, wondering who this guy was at his door and what he was doing here. Venice got into his pocket and pulled out his wallet, flipped it open to show... Sorry, I need to read this sentence. It's going to be a little bit complicated. Richard Isaacs were the man who answered the door. He looked over Venice, wondering who this guy was at his door and what he was doing there. Venice got into his pocket and pulled out his wallet, flipped it open to a show-hid badge. Hi, my name is Andrew Venice, he said cheerfully, like there was nothing unusual about him showing up there in the middle of the day. I'm here to ask you a few questions. It's no big deal. That was what Venice wanted him to think, Isaacs thought. They always said it was no big deal when they were trying to nail you. I found this lying outside your door, Andrew said. You want it? What was this guy trying to do? Be friendly to him? No, just toss it there in the circular file, Isaacs pointed. Toss it to where? That box, right there beside the door, he said. Pointed to the box. He was getting mad. It's not a circle. It's more of a square, said Venice. Or a rectangle, maybe. It's a joke, all right. Now Isaacs was really, really mad. I put the circulars in the circular file. But that crazy Venice guy just offered it again. You sure you don't want it? They got good deals inside. Could save you some money. Just throw it away. I wish the kids would stop delivering them. I know, the change of POV is good, right? Just right in the middle of the chapter, we just changed POV. It's expertly written. Hey, listen, said Venice, sticking his hands into his pockets. I don't have all day here. I'm on an investigation. I came to ask you some important questions, and I want some answers. I don't have to answer anything you ask, Richard Isaacs replied forcefully. He wanted to make a point. Are you going to stay out there on the porch and scare off all the neighbors, or are you going to come inside? I'll come inside and ask you my questions there. I want to ask you about Margaret Eastman. Margaret Eastman, the nurse who'd had sex with Bruce Lucent at the prom. Isaacs knew he was going to be regretting this later, but he said, come on inside anyway. Even though he didn't want the guy inside. But what were you going to do? That's what they expected from you once you got messed up with the police. But he didn't have to play their game. Venice walked into the living room, not sure what to expect. I actually am not sure that is her first name. I feel like maybe it's only sometimes Margaret Eastman. It's unclear to me. Venice walked into the living room, not sure what to expect. Something about Isaacs didn't add up right. I see you, Anna Geeks. Either he was living in a plain house in this plain neighborhood because of frugality, because he was cheap, or there was some other reason. He couldn't figure Isaacs out, like there was something he was hiding. Even though Venice knew he was in his mid-60s, he looked more like a tough guy than a stock market expert. He had broad shoulders and a narrow waist, muscular. His cheeks were ruddy, like he spent a lot of time outside in the sun and the wind. Damn genetics. Some people didn't have to work for anything and had it all anyway. He didn't look like a guy who just turned 40 and needed Viagra to get it up anymore. But Venice wasn't here to feel sorry for himself. He had a job to do, and it was time to do it. Isaac sat down in the brown reclining chair with a plop in front of the big screen TV, and he pointed to the couch. "Why don't you sit down?" he suggested, like a man who meant it. There's a question mark. Venice wasn't going to let himself be pushed around that way by some informant. "I think I'll stand. This'll take just a few minutes." "So get started already." Isaacs would be glad when this interview was over, so he could watch his football game. "You follow the Falcons at all?" "I'm not really a football fan," said Venice, although he split a pair of season tickets with his brother-in-law, went to half the games. He looked at the TV for a second, trying to spot Bill in the crowd. Bill was married to his little sister, Leslie. He adored Leslie. Bill was a great guy, just the kind of guy he'd rather be spending the afternoon with. Then he thought he sounded like some wuss for saying that, so he added, "I think the West Coast offense really ought to open things up for Vic, though. They should make the playoffs next year." "Yeah," said Isaacs passionately. "I know, you're like, what?" He loved football. He didn't mind all the damn questions now so much, not if this Venice character liked the Falcons. "So, you wanted to ask me about somebody named Maury?" "Her name is Margaret Eastman," Venice said. His veins turned to ice at the mention of her name. Things like that shouldn't happen to a young woman like her. "Who is she?" Isaacs asked. "Yeah, who is she?" The door to the kitchen slammed open, and in walked the most beautiful woman Venice had seen today, or maybe in a week. The more he looked at her, the more he thought maybe in a lifetime. But he didn't have a whole lifetime of experience yet. But she was incredibly beautiful. Her eyes burst with curiosity. Or maybe it was jealousy. She was older for a beautiful woman, maybe 40, maybe the exact same age as Venice. She was wearing a bra under her tight blouse, and she was wearing lipstick too, and he couldn't help staring at her. Her hair was pretty too, like it was made out of silk, just that kind of shiny. If she's a redhead, I quit. Hey, Monica, we just need some privacy to discuss business, says Isaacs. "It's just man talk, nothing you'd be interested in." "If it's another woman again, you bet I'm interested," she said, adjusting her breasts to make them stick out more. Venice was staring at her. He couldn't take his eyes off her, and she was looking at his eyes, like she was touching herself for him, to be prettier for him. He couldn't believe it. "I don't know who she is," Isaac said, and he was regretting inviting Venice into the house again. "You sure you don't know anything about her?" Venice asked. Monica stared at him with her lips. Monica stared at him with her lips, making a little red pout. "If I knew anything about her, you can bet I'd let you know," she said, slapping Isaacs on the top of his head. "Ow!" he said, grabbing the top of his head. He looked at Venice again and said, "I said I don't know her or anything about her." "She was a nurse at the hospital where Bruce Lucent recovered from his automobile accident," Venice said. "She's really beautiful, like you wouldn't believe. She has brown hair." "I know you like women with brown hair, you two-timing jerks," Monica said. She was hitting Isaacs on the top of the head again, and he jumped up and yelled, "Stop that! I don't know anything, and I don't know her." "I could show you pictures," Venice said. He had a lot of pictures of her, but he didn't want to share all of them, not with this scum. "Only Monica. It might help your memory some." "Listen, buddies," Isaac said. You came here, so you take what you get and leave. I said I don't know anything. I don't know anything. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it." "Why don't you take me?" Monica purred at him. "Hey now, I don't like that," Isaac said, and now he was mad at all of them for ruining his day. He was mad enough to hurt somebody. He'd killed a man before one time with his bare hands, and he could do it again. if he put something in his bare hands, like a knife or a gun or something that he could kill somebody with. Venice sensed trouble ahead, but he wanted to see more of Monica. He had the sense, though, that they were just ships passing in the night, that she was just some temporary liaison of Richard Isaacs, probably just another cheap tramp or something like all the others. Maybe she could be different, but it wasn't going to be in this lifetime, not with him. Well, if you don't know anything, I guess I'll be going, he said. Walking down the sidewalk, the car waited for him at the curb. He stopped before opening the door and looked back up at the house. He saw Isaac standing in the window frame looking back at him. Somebody was hiding here, but Venice knew he was a bulldog. He'd get to the bottom of it yet. It didn't matter who got hurt along the way, because he was going to find out the answers. Dun, dun, dun! That, my friends, is the end of chapter 4 of Atlanta Nights. He killed them with his bare hands. He got them on a hunt and kept them in the den. Yeah, his bare hands filled. I'm confused if Monica is a beautiful woman or the mystery woman that people apparently don't know anything about. You know, DSB, a little confusion's not bad. How was that? That was amazing. It wasn't even an hour. It was less than an hour. Oh my goodness. I want to know what happened to Margaret Eastman. Who is like somebody gonna kill Bruce Lucent? Will Isidore snap? I could have swore Trooper liked us all, but now I have doubts. So many doubts. This book has 40 chapters, so that I think you can get it done. I think I can get it done in 10 sessions. Although I think one of the chapters is missing. Like there's just a missing chapter. So I think it actually isn't 41 chapters. The hemispheres of my brain have merged. Oh, chapter 5 has more Margaret Eastman, everybody. But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about RPGs. But, and Atlanta Nights. It is sadist. No, I mean, maybe there's just a little sadism. Just a little. I mean, I want to share with you some of the best worsts. So that's right. Chapter 38 is missing, but there are 2 chapter 12s. Chapter 12 is repeated in different parts of the book, just wholesale. And what was amazing is the book was accepted by the publisher, even though chapter 12 is repeated twice. One of the chapters is created by machine language. Jello boobs. Yes, Margaret Eastman, Jello boobs. I just want to I want to meet somebody whose cheeks are on fire like a volcano underneath the leaves, the green leaves that are their eyes. And in the center, there's a caterpillar that is the pupil. I just want to meet a person like that. You know, I just want to meet a person who's just like that. And also I want to meet Stephen Suffern, who is a stud, but also reads, you know, he also reads. B. Boodle, you don't want to meet Steve Suffern and then also maybe Yvonne Perrin? I want to meet a lava goat. Oh. So, yes, I want to meet somebody who also looks like a cinnamon cake, whose muscles ripple like waves of an ocean underneath tan skin that looks like a cinnamon cake. Because, yeah, with his pulsing blue silk shorts, I feel like this is what we all need in our life. We need Galfork, you walked into lava goats and jello boobs. This is what you walked into. Yeah, no, there's pulsing. Rissa, there is pulsing. Without a doubt. So what I want to tell you, so some things about RPGs, we're going to just ponder. Shorts should not pulse. They should not, but there are many things that should not be happening in this book. Adverbs. There are many adverbs that should not be happening in this book. Too many adverbs. And, you know, just... Why is there throbbing and pulsing? Because it's Atlanta, you know? And Richard Isaacs is a stock manipulator. And Stephen Suffern, he makes money, you know, software developing. The poor hungry ducks, and nobody fed the ducks. Nobody fed the ducks. Oh, it's so sad. So sad. Hot Lana. Galfork, you understand. You understand it all. So, I just made my character for Scum and Villainy. Atlanta is the pulsing, throbbing center of Georgia on Peachtree Street. And that is true. I mean, I sort of worry about everybody's anatomy in this book, but I'm sure it'll be fine. The one thing that is sad is you cannot see the excitement of the spelling and punctuation. Please don't feed breads to ducks. Don't do it. Don't do it. So, I made my character for Scum and Villainy, which is a hack of Blades in the Dark, which is, I'm just saying, I feel like what has just happened is that I was traumatized everyone here by Atlantanites. And I feel like that's not bad. I feel like maybe just a little bit of Atlantanites related trauma might be good for all of us. Southern breeze carrying the scent of magnolias, sweet tea, peach tea, lemon sweet tea. Krellin says, Trooper, we're not friends anymore. Krellin, but don't you want to know? Don't you want to know? Don't you think that maybe there's a conspiracy? Or perhaps also, I mean, who knows what's happening in this book? It is dramatic. This is revenge for all the distraction when I'm trying to play games. That's it. Just a little. I wish I had the hard copy, but reading. Oh, I really love you. I love you more than Bruce Lucent loves Penelope Urbain. Like way more, because I don't even think he likes her. I mean, I think, well, the book says that they love each other, but I doubt it. No, Scum and Villainy is, Barandor wants to desperately change this topic. Like a little drama's great. It's totally healthy, right? I mean, that's totally fair. Oh, Atlanta Nights. But do I pulse for him? I don't think Bruce loves Penelope as much as Penelope loves Bruce. I don't think Bruce can really love anyone. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who loves anyone. That Bruce Lucent. I feel like Bruce Lucent's the worst. And no more freshly baked cinnamon cake pulsing blue shorts. They're like, things can throb in Star Wars too. That's how you get younglings in the end. That is fair. But then they all die or are murdered by people, strangely. Software developers can't love people, Trooper. That may be true. I think it might depend on what language. Like maybe if they do machine language, like Fortran, maybe Fortran software developers don't love people. They only love semaphores. Yeah. I like to think that when I walk, my body sways like a semaphore of love, but I feel like it doesn't. Bruce doesn't feel love. He doesn't have the range. He doesn't have the range. He doesn't have the range, Lovey. He doesn't have the range. First you love, then you laser sword them. I don't make the rules. The world just loves different. Bruce only feels pain, and then whispers, but then pain. That's Tittles. It was spelled. Your hips only sway like palm trees in a Hawaiian hurricane. This is true. You see how life is? Life is good. We're here enjoying some Atlanta nights.